Hey everyone, welcome back to the hardware news recap for the week. In this one, we're talking about how GN is hiring. We'll also be talking about more AMD Zen 4 confirmation on some of the specs and CPUs coming out in the future. Some in the rumor camp, but AMD actually officially has been commenting as well lately. We'll also be covering some rumors on the 6950 XT, which is an upcoming refresh for AMD's GPUs. There's news on variable refresh rate getting finally added for the PlayStation 5. It's only about 18 months late, but it's here now. DDR5 speed records have been set by HiCookie from Gigabyte, at least as of the time of filming this. More AD102 news for RTX 40 series and Enermax, making slime-filled coolers once again. It's a feature. Before that, this video is brought to you by Lexar's Hades RGB RAM. Lexar's Hades RAM is available in DDR4 3200 and DDR4 3600 options and specializes by allowing LED synchronization, including for color, intensity, and speed changes. Lexar's Hades is looking to compete on both quality and price, and the RGB LEDs allow for easy matching with any build's color profile. Learn more at the link in the description below. So first up, GN is hiring. If this topic doesn't interest you, that's completely fine. Jump to one of the timestamps listed over here in the time bars, and you can get back to hardware news. On this topic, however, we're currently hiring for at least one position and potentially two, depending on who applies for the positions. So we've never put out a big hiring message like this to our audience. This is a pretty big deal for us and a big change for how we go about the hiring process. In the past, we've done some articles on the website, but it's been a long time. We've mostly hired locally with people that one way or another we've known within the team. So this is our first big message out to the audience and a good chance for you to try and join our team. The two full-time positions that we are currently looking for include, and I'll detail these more in a moment, operations management and a testing/writing position, heavy focus on the writing aspect of that. The writing or testing position can be thought of more of as a lab position where you're more hands-on with the components. The operations management is more of a business side position with some technical knowledge needed, but you don't have to be at the same level as the testing personnel on the team here. We'll go over those in a bit. These are on-site only, so you must either already be in North Carolina, and we'll go over more details on specifics if we get into conversation with you, or 100% willing to relocate for this job. At this time, we also can't take any candidates from outside the country, outside of the US. It's just not something that we're really equipped to do. The jobs will be about 36 to 40 hours per week, so they are full-time jobs. We'll include a lot more detail in some links in the description below, and then we'll also have a job listings page that we're putting on our Squarespace site, which is part of the GN store. So it'll be on that GN store site. We'll link that below as well. That will include details how to apply. Make sure you send your applications to the email that we specify on that page. If you don't send it to that email address, it will not be looked at. So just keep that in mind. Make sure you check, where to send it and how to apply. We'll need specific subject lines entered in the email as well, just so we can filter, because there'll be a lot of applicants. We don't show a lot of behind the scenes for the workplace. We mostly show the products we review, things like that. But this is an awesome place to work. The team is extremely talented. I enjoy being around everyone. It's really fun to work here for me, and the team likes it too. So we have fun with the work. It is a professional environment. This is a real job. YouTube is becoming more of a respected, real career path now, but it has taken some time to get here. So while we have fun, it's still a professional environment and just something to keep in mind as well if you're considering applying. Why you would come here would be if you're passionate about working on and with computers, if you place a high value on generally doing the right thing by consumers, but you can also be fair to companies as well, and if you want to grow with us. We are in a growing phase right now that's pretty strong. We don't hire a lot, so each of our hires has to be highly skilled, efficient, and passionate about their work. And just like everything else we do, we believe in quality over quantity, with a lot of room to scale with the company as it continues to expand. Most recently, you may be aware already that we've moved into our new building. We really put a lot of time, effort, money into making this a really nice place to work, not just for video purposes, making it look nice on camera, but also nice to spend your work hours. So that's a huge benefit. You don't have to come in at the level where, like Patrick and Andrew did, we were still working out of the house, and then later the small office. We're in a pretty permanent position at this point, and we've really put the effort in. I'm pretty happy with how it's come out. Now, for some perks, small and large, depending on who you are, there's a small trail system next door to us. We're surrounded by greenways. We have a gym on site for employees, if that's something you're interested in. We have a large break room. We have extremely high-end test equipment in our new lab space that you probably won't get to use in many other places. There's a well-thought-out test lab as well for just computer components without the massive machines, but instead with real computers, so we can do all the testing you see for videos. Everything is extremely organized as well, so it's easy to find things and work in the environment even if you're new to it. And of course, we've got the studio where we have a lot of room to expand and add some new sets. So the location has a large yard. I've been working on planting a garden, an outdoor space for lunch breaks, or just for filming. And we also provide a good health insurance plan and have a focus on work-life balance for employees. In terms of the team, I've been working with most of the people on the team at this point for almost 10 years each, depending on how you sort of weigh the starting point. But dating back to about 2012, where Patrick, Andrew, and Keegan were all in some form working as a contractor or generally low hours contributor back in the early days, and that group, that team has joined full-time over the last, well, 2015 to 2019 range or so. So we have very well-defined processes, extremely detail-oriented team. If you sound like a detail-oriented person, then you will fit in here. And if you watch our content, you'll be familiar with our content and testing standards as well. Now, of course, we want to keep those standards. We're interested in growth as any company. I, however, don't want super rapid growth. I want controlled growth where we can keep the content quality high and we can improve our quality, not just the quantity of things. That's why we need another team member or two. Currently, our team includes 5 full-time staff plus me, so we're at 6 total on site. This is a number that I think will probably shock some of you given the high output of high-quality content we have, because just frankly, the team is just that good. That's where we've gotten to. And that's why we're excited to bring at least one person new on. We'll train you up to speed, obviously, but you should come in with some skills as well. So this is a small and focused group, and keep it that way. That way we're never really beholden to anything other than our own values. We'll give more details at the link in the description below for the hiring ads, but just quickly, for the operations manager role, we need someone who can serve as a QC team lead and help manage some of the pipelines, some of the business operations, potentially including advertiser relations and some billing. But mainly we're interested in support on the QC side, where you'll be looking at scripts and videos before I do for final QC passes. So you need very strong attention to detail for where errors might get through, potential mistakes. Good idea for our tone and a fair tone for the manufacturer and the consumer alike to try and strike that balance of proper reporting. And you won't be contributing necessarily to the content writing or the testing in the operations role. You will be, however, looking at almost all of the content either before or after I do to try and filter for errors, mistakes, things that we don't want in the content because it's not quality. So that would be the QC part of the role. This will not be a full-time part of the job. The job, however, is full-time. So the rest of the job will include things like working with team members as a liaison to figure out what does the video team need from the testing or the writing team, what do people need from me, what's bottlenecked on me. Right now, for example, we have some project where I need to film some pickup shots in A-roll, I need to do some voiceover. So having someone to collect that information, put it into a report, and check in with me and say, hey, this is what Keegan needs, this is what Andrew needs, this is what Mike needs, this is what Patrick needs, and then we can start working on those things together to sort of help organize timetables and schedules. So the operations manager role is intrinsically someone who is organized and detail-oriented. And again, some of the business operations stuff might include advertiser relations, so emailing back and forth with them. I try to stay fairly separated from the advertisement discussion for editorial reasons, and potentially handling some of the billing or invoicing for that stuff. If you've done it at all, though, it's fairly standardized. The next role, so testing and writing, this is more flexible based on your skill set, but the one thing that's not flexible is we need strong writing first and foremost for this role. Testing for strong writing will begin with your first email. It will be judged heavily because it's a writing role. So be aware of that. If you're capable of doing product testing as well, great. We can work with that. We can integrate it into your role. we are especially interested in some additional help with managing power supply testing. We want to expand our power supply testing and reviews. If you have knowledge in power supplies that's pre-existing knowledge, then definitely email us. If you are a strong writer also, we have some testing capability already for power supplies. We have good processes, but we do need some more writing capability. So that's something we'll need, and a specific skill set we're keeping an eye out for. That said, we don't need someone only with power supply skills. If you're interested in CPU test management, GPU test management, meaning overseeing the tests that are being completed, then also reach out to us if you have those strong writing abilities. Your judgment also has to be sharp and decisive. So when you're talking about if a product is good or not, we don't want wishy-washy. It's okay if you start there, but we will work to tune that judgment so that you can make sharp decisions on this is a good product, this is a bad product, without being scared to offend a manufacturer or offend consumers if they have an opinion that is founded on something we think is invalid. So that's kind of what we're looking for. More detail in the links in the description below. You would need good attention to detail and ability to follow testing SOPs if you're on the testing side, standard operating procedures. Definitely strong English skills, obviously grammar, brevity, something that I struggle with, and ability to write about objective data. This is a big deal for us because we're reaching out, like I said, to the audience to hire, so we're going to get a lot of applicants, I think. And if you want to try and join the team in its small and focused state with the awesome environment we've built, now is the time. All right, on to the first hardware news story. Thank you for bearing with us. Big deal for us, so it was important to get through. Okay, AMD Ryzen 7000 CPU, official news coming out from AMD directly. This is mostly related to laptops right now and contains a little bit of desktop news as well with Raphael, but AMD confirmed its new codename Dragon Range and Phoenix CPUs coming up for laptops. This is part of the Zen 4 family, so it's the new architecture. This was announced in an AMD official slide, which shows the roadmap for the Zen 4 CPUs. Ryzen 7000 series CPUs will be included in Zen 4, and the Dragon Range and Phoenix chips are bound for 2023, included in laptops. So these will be PCIe Gen 5 enabled. They will also be DDR5 enabled, and that makes them part of AMD's early round of DDR5 and PCIe Gen 5 technology implementations, other than the desktop version, which is coming out still late 2022. That's been known publicly for some time, confirmed by AMD. Dragon Range will run 55 watts plus in TDP and supports normal DDR5, with Phoenix running lower power overall at 35 to 45 watts and using LP DDR5 or low power DDR5. These components are both targeting gaming laptops, so they'll be in the APU camp mostly. Phoenix is meant for thin and light gaming laptops, while Dragon Range will be more of the portable desktop variation. As for Raphael, that still starts in second half of 2022, so that's Zen 4, and that'll be DIY desktop stuff we normally cover. It's already been confirmed as D5 and PCIe Gen 5, but Dragon Range and Phoenix are the new ones. AMD has some new GPU specs and rumors being leaked recently as well. So this is for desktop GPUs. There's a May release date currently rumored for these GPUs that are a refresh of the existing 6000 series video cards, and that would include the RDNA 2 line. This leak, though, comes from ChipHell specifically, which shows variations of the 6950 XT, including Sapphire brands, as ranging from 289 watts to 332 watts for the vBIOS. And remember, that number is a vBIOS power target or power limit, so it's not necessarily the official TDP of the part from AMD directly. Manufacturers have some room there to increase it if they want to. There's an additional vBIOS that pushes it to 346 watts, gives a bit more overclocking headroom for additional voltage and some power leakage with heat too. And then the 6650 XT runs from 157 to 164 watts with the listed card, with the 6750 XT as listed at 200 to 230. These cards will be incremental steps on existing 6900 XT, 6700 XT, and 6600 XT GPUs. No word officially or in rumors really on a 6850 or anything like that yet. You shouldn't expect massive changes in performance, but if the price remains roughly the same, it'll be a standard incremental uptick. The big question here, as always with refreshes, is just if they actually keep the pricing at least in step. Once you exceed that, so that's sort of increasing the price for an equivalent percentage increase, it's not an improvement anymore. It's just shifting the entire goalpost somewhere else. So you want to see them break that lockstep with the refreshes, in theory, improving the value, not keeping it the same, because that doesn't make any sense. Enermax. Enermax is back, because back in 2019, you might remember, certainly we do, because this was one of the most disgusting things we had to do for the job. We investigated serious problems affecting Enermax liquid coolers, specifically the LickTech 1 and 2 coolers. They also have a LickMax line. The naming could probably use some work. But anyway, thanks to the viewers back then who reached out and helped us get a hold of the coolers we did. It was something like 14 of them or something like that, all clogged and jammed with gunk. Most of them have at this point been brought to Camden Institute for metals recycling, so they've actually gotten some kind of use, but it was not in the cooler that they came in. So thanks to our supporters on store.gamersnexus.net and patreon.com/gamersnexus, we were able to do an in-depth investigation on it, including sending one of them out for X-ray spectrometry and for analysis of the water composition within the coolers. We also did disassembly, and we saw the truly disgusting gunk that you'll see in B-roll somewhere during this. At the time, we hadn't gotten reports of similar issues affecting any units outside of the LickTech family of coolers, so it looked like the rest was okay. Unfortunately, it now seems that there's a very similar issue, if not the same, plaguing the LickTech 3 coolers. That's the newer version of this. Enermax has jumped on the issue early, though. They're learning, so this is a good thing, and has already issued a formal recall in at least Korea. Enermax claims that the number of affected units is low and limited to models sold in Korea, though we're not sure how much we trust that given Enermax's history with this. As of this writing, Enermax says that only the black LickMax 3 AIOs with a serial number beginning in 2012 and the white models with a serial number beginning in 2119 are affected. RMAs are being handled through the Korean website, which is enermaxkorea.com, and for the time being, we plan to monitor the situation and follow the scope of the issue. If you have a LickMax 3 cooler, specifically it has to be the Model 3 from outside of Korea or outside the given serial number range, and you have reason to believe it may be affected by this issue, you can let us know at tips@gamersnexus.net. That's TIPS. Now, this time, Enermax has responded in a timely manner, so that's great. That's what we want to see. If Enermax can clean things up, literally in this sense, then that's really what's important here, and obviously fixing it for people who bought their stuff. Although at this point, probably don't, but because it's been on at least 2 now, and it's looking like 3. Anyway, not much confidence in Enermax's ability to make a liquid cooler at this point. We generally review things product by product, not by brand. But once a brand has demonstrated 3 times that it has trouble controlling its processes, its mixing of metals, its water quality, and the coolers fail as a result because they build up gunk and they can no longer pump liquid through the cold plate, yeah, you see that enough times. It's like, okay, maybe the brand actually does just have an issue. So we'll need to see some big improvements from Enermax to ever recommend their stuff again. All right, Nvidia ADA rumors up next. So as we draw closer to Q3 and Q4 launch for Nvidia's next GPU generation, the RTX 40 series, Twitter and the rumor mill is hard at work churning away. If only we could hook up rumor mills to some form of sustainable energy. But we can't. We get videos instead. Anyway, the rumor mill is churning out a seemingly endless amount of dubious information. This week's story comes from regular leakers Greymon55 and Kopite7Kimi. The most eye-catching of these is an AD102 SKU with an absolutely ridiculous TGP of 900 watts. Now, Kopite7Kimi here undercuts this somewhat by saying it could just be a test board and not an actual product, and we would probably lean towards that explanation. This is a good note, and our recent Xbox Series X dev kit is a reminder of why. That system caused a lot of rumors early on because the dev kit had 40 gigabytes of RAM, something that found its way into rumors about the retail product. Anyway, for this, Greymon55's leak concerned the computing power of the upcoming Nvidia and AMD GPUs. Greymon55 puts the Ada GPUs at 100 plus teraflops of computing power, with RDNA 3 GPUs at 90 plus teraflops. For perspective, the 3090 is listed at about 40 or so of computing power. Teraflops can be a bit of a misleading metric, but when you're this early, you don't really have much else to go on. So obviously, we'll have to look at real performance once we have the real cards. Now, finally, the leaks here suggested that the performance of AMD RX 6000 GPUs pushed Nvidia to rework the Ada GPUs and make them better. The tweeter refers to a tweet made nearly a year ago and then deleted that had performance estimates of different upcoming GPUs. Kopite had the 8102 at 2.2x, Navi 31 at 2.5x, and GH202 at 3x. It's unclear from the tweet, but presumably these estimates are against the generation prior. The leaker goes on to say that, quote, I must clarify that the current 8102 is not the original 8102. Ada Lovelace is no longer a simple Ampere refresh, although it was like this in the beginning. If this is true, then it presents some insights as to NVIDIA's explanation for its competition with the past generation and demonstrates competition in action, pushing a company further with goals once they see that they might actually have to fight a little harder. Up next, this one was pretty fun for us because it was a physical on-site news reporting event thing we did. Honestly, it was meant to just be a team outing event for us where Andrew and Patrick and I, for a couple of weeks, had been talking on and off about, hey, there's this limited run game store that's supposed to be opening nearby, and it might be fun to go check it out. We decided to go without any planning whatsoever, and it was insane. The amount of people in line for a physical games retailer, any year, ever, this number, it was crazy. There was a guy that we met, actually, who had recognized us, shout out to you, where he drove up from Florida. He got in line at 7:30 a.m. or thereabouts, and he waited until at least 2:30 p.m. when we met him, and he was still probably an hour away from the door. So all that time to eventually get in the door for a games retailer. So this place was popping when we came by. We'll probably put some of the footage over on GN Extras. There were some fun viewer interactions. Got to meet a few of you. It was awesome to say hi and learn about what everyone was there for and their personal computer builds and things like that. So thank you for saying hi if we met you out there. And we might put some of that on GN Extras. But the event itself was about Limited Run and its physical game store, where Limited Run is a company that's been around for a while now, where they republish or publish physical copies of games, as the name would imply, as sort of a collector's angle of things, where the gist of it is if you miss the days of buying physical boxes of games, putting it on a shelf or in a chronological wall or something like I did back before Steam took over my library, then Limited Run was supposed to fill that niche for you. So that's what they do. At this particular location, they also do trade-ins. They were selling a bunch of NES games and SNES games, which I spent some time looking at. Patrick got mocked by basically everyone in the store for buying The Hobbit for PlayStation 3. I don't know. I think one of the comments from the sales clerk was like, really? This is what you bought? Which I thought, I don't know why they'd say that. And then Patrick showed me the box art, and I was like, oh, okay. Why'd you buy this? So there's cool stuff there, and then there's also The Hobbit for the PS3. We had fun, though. Mega 64 was out there, so Patrick got to meet up with them. He's a fan of their work, and they had this big tent filled with all kinds of stuff for Limited Run. Might be interesting to check out if you're nearby, but it was different for us, and we'll probably go back there, maybe do some content with them in the future, so we wanted to shout it out. But the store design's pretty cool. Not sure how well that carpet's going to age, to be honest. Because my memory of carpets that looked like that from the 90s at cartridge NES, SNES rental stores is that they age very, very poorly, and eventually you just see mud and chewing gum and other prints all over the carpets. So we'll see. But the products are good. All right, HiCookie breaking some records. So Gigabyte's resident overclocker HiCookie is at it again, this time with DDR5. This was super cool. So HiCookie, after being involved in a bit of an overclocking controversy with their Bauer previously, is now going to new heights to prove his work and show that the software can be trusted when validating his results. In this case, it was overclocking memory. And to do that, he hooked up an oscilloscope, or his team hooked up an oscilloscope to show the actual frequency that the RAM was running at. And it's pretty high-end stuff. He broke the record for DDR5 last week with an astonishing 5011 megahertz overclock on a stick of 16 gigabyte Aorus RAM, and HiCookie's result comes hot on the heels of Coleman, who was the first to break the 5000 megahertz barrier with a 5001 megahertz result. Coleman is a member of MSI's OT team, and like HiCookie, Young also used a single 16 gigabyte stick of DDR5. However, his was from Kingston. As expected, both overclockers used liquid nitrogen for their results. If you're a bit confused about the frequencies, keep in mind that memory frequencies are a little bit of a confusing topic, and the confusing end comes from if you're used to seeing numbers like DDR5-6000 megahertz on marketing on boxes for DDR5 kits, yes, that is the naming of a kit that you could buy and set XMP and it will tell you 6000 megahertz, but that's not the same thing that we're talking about here. HiCookie's result was supplemented with a YouTube video that captured the moment. His team's excitement can be heard in the background, with HiCookie himself celebrating with a simple cool.
Yes!
Cool.
Yes!
This is pretty much in line with the exact cool-headedness we've come to expect from HiCookie when interviewing them in the past. Both overclockers used somewhat similar motherboards for the respective companies, paired with the variations of the 12900K they use. So Jan opted for one of the limited run, not that limited run, Intel binned 12900KSs. HiCookie, on the other hand, stuck with a plain old i9 12900K. The motherboards used were the MSI Meg Z690 Unify X for Young, and the Gigabyte Z690 Aorus Tachyon for HiCookie. Both boards are designed by and for overclockers with features specifically for RAM overclocking. Both have only 2 DIMM slots positioned as close as possible to the CPU. This is to benefit overclocking, so if you're like, why would I spend $700+ for a motherboard with only 2 slots of RAM? This is it. It's not meant for practical uses. We met up with HiCookie at the Gigabyte Labs in 2020 if you want to see some of our on-camera work with him before. Met with him before that too, when we were talking about Threadripper overclocking. Up next, Alienware debuts its new AWTF. That's right, the AWTF is out now and available. This is the Alienware training facility, or something like that. This is a new prison for pro gamers. We'll show you some photos. It has Alienware R13s in it, we assume, so that people can conduct psychological evaluations of pro gamers when their CPU randomly drops clocks, because it's been 56 seconds and the cooler is allowing it to run at 96 degrees. Anyway, next story. Asus counters MSI with Evangelion, or Evangelion, however you want to say it. We know this is a highly contested topic. How about Evangelion? Does that trigger anybody? Let us know in the comments. Giant robots are always fun, but we also like when hardware companies use something interesting or unusual for branding, even if it's just cross-branding where they're using some other IP. So when Asus launched its line of Gundam-branded products last year, we noted that we were happy to see something different applied to PC part branding. We always bring up the much smaller company Yeston, which does the cute pet branding, where they make custom molds and shrouds and everything else to do something different than a standard video card design. When we reviewed the Asus power supply for Gundam, we talked about many of the same things. Now, in our CES coverage earlier this year, we were excited when MSI countered with a Neon Genesis Evangelion branded cooler motherboard power supply and case. However, we noted at the same time that MSI's lineup lacked the GPU. Apparently, we weren't the only ones who noticed this, because in an unexpected twist, befitting the Evangelion name, Asus countered MSI's counter with their own Evangelion-themed GPU. And yes, I'm doing that on purpose. The EVA RTX 3090 has a purple and neon green backplate with a cooler that has red accents as well. It's branded with the EVA Unit 1 iconography, and it's hard to tell just from the pictures here, but it doesn't look like the purple and green elements on the Asus GPU match the MSI choices for purple and green. So they've planned. The pre-order price was set to 64,000 Taiwan dollars, and that comes out to something like 2160 USD. Hardware leaker extraordinaire Momomo_US found the pre-order on the Taiwanese retail site CoolPC. We've actually visited this store in person at Guanghua Digital Plaza before, and it's unclear at this time whether CoolPC is the only retailer getting these cards when we wrote this story anyway, but CoolPC says that there are only 15 of these GPUs available. As of this writing, all 15 on CoolPC have been claimed, and a listing has not appeared on Asus's website. Hopefully this promotion isn't limited to Cool PC though, and more are out there. Sony is continuing to trickle out its promised power supply, PlayStation 5 features. They've been working on it. So in September of last year, official support was added for expandable internal storage. And this month, only 18 or however many months after the launch of the product, support for HDMI 2.1's variable refresh rate has come to the console. There'll probably be support for 8K at some point too. They've advertised it since the beginning, so it's been printed on all the boxes for going on 2 years now. But for now, we're just talking about VRR, variable refresh rate. FreeSync and G-Sync are existing variable refresh rate technologies. HDMI variable refresh rate is a third thing. We could spend quite a bit of time getting into the details, but on the consumer side, they're basically all the same. To summarize, variable refresh means displaying full frames when they're done rendering. Otherwise, frames can be delivered in the middle of a screen refresh, leading to tearing. Consoles usually avoid this by using V-Sync, but that can lead to fully skipped frames, which would be perceived to the viewer or the player as a stutter. It's missing data, basically, if the GPU can't keep up with the display. Variable refresh allows the GPU to set the pace, theoretically the best of both worlds, with consistent frame times and no tearing. So then, lower, not proper noun variable refresh tech has been around for years and has very few downsides at this point, other than sometimes requiring more expensive displays. Proper noun variable refresh rate, VRR, as implemented on the PlayStation 5, has quite a few downsides, as pointed out by Digital Foundry on their channel, notably that it doesn't kick in below 48 Hz, with individual game developers left to patch in support for lower frame rates. And also, it doesn't work with PlayStation 4 games. Now, the unavoidable comparison here is to Xbox with its FreeSync support, which was added in the previous console generation with an update in April of 2018. That's it for news for the recap this week. Thank you for watching. As always, subscribe for more. We have a lot of stuff coming up. We had a bit of a slow period while we were working on updating some of our SOPs and internal testing processes, which is all exciting for fueling future content. If you want to support us directly, you can go to store.gamersnexus.net and grab things like toolkits, the coaster packs, mod mats, and more. Or check the links in the description below if you're interested in applying for the positions we mentioned earlier. And if you don't think you fit one of those two specific job roles, but you think you have some sort of spectacular skill set that may be useful for what we do, don't hesitate to reach out. Just follow the instructions in the links below. We are going to have a lot of automated filters in place. If you follow the subject and title and everything properly, then you'll be able to get past the filters, but there is a reason they're there. So that's it for this one. Thank you for watching. As always, subscribe for more, and we'll see you all next time.